Hey guys, Matt, IronTrap Garage, and in anticipation of another year of the Hershey swap meet, we are going to do a follow-up video to our very popular tips for the Hershey swap meet. So last time I kind of did a long rundown. If you are a beginner, you've never come to the Hershey swap meet, make sure you check that video. We'll drop a link down below. You can kind of learn all the do's and don'ts and little tips that I've learned over the years. Being a hardcore flea market swap meet guy, I've learned a lot of things the hard way. I give you those tips and it will hopefully help you if you've never been to Hershey. Watch that video. So this one, we're just taking it a little bit further. There's been some changes at the Hershey swap meet in recent years that will change some things, and I'm going to give some expert tips. So some stuff that I left out of the other video, I'm giving away some of those secrets in this video, so make sure you follow along. All right, so tip number one, and this is one that I didn't give out. I've told a lot of friends about this, and now we're just going to put it out public. It doesn't really matter anyways. But tip number one is Chocolate World. So if you are pretty serious about buying, you expect to make a bunch of trips back and forth to the vehicle, you're handicapped, or maybe it's hard for you to get around at the swap meet, or you have a little mobility cart and you are only coming for a day or a couple days driving back and forth, Chocolate World. So the Chocolate World area is right against the actual swap meet, and they have daily parking. So you can actually drive in, pay your daily rate. Now it is a little more expensive than across the street in the fields, but if you get that parking space there, you are significantly closer to chocolate fields. The chocolate fields kind of surround, and you're like in the heart of the swap meet right there as far as I'm concerned, and that is a great place to park. Now, they do have hours there, so if you tend to stay really late at the swap meet, there is guard towers and the little bars maybe across, so make sure that you check all that out. You can pay like a weekly rate or a 3-day rate or something like that to park there. They know that people are doing this, that's why they do the multiple day rate. But you can park in there, super easy. I used to do it before I set up, because then I could make trips back and forth to the vehicle without any problem. I could go get my hand truck if I bought something and bring it back. It just made it a lot nicer to do that if you're not actually set up in vending. So Chocolate World, keep that in mind if you're coming and you want a little bit closer spot to park. All right, number two, expert tip for the Hershey swap meet, and that is setup day is free, and it is okay for your average person to walk in and shop. That is a little known fact. A lot of people don't realize that anybody can get in on setup day. Anybody can get in at the Hershey swap meet. You literally just like show up and you walk in. That's one of the beauties of the Hershey swap meet. You can just walk in, go, and just walk the swap meet, and everything is great. But you can go on setup day. One little thing that has changed is the Hershey swap meet has now moved everything up a day. So setup day is now Monday. That's right, Monday. Used to be Tuesday was setup day. So if you are not vending but you want to show up, you can come on Monday and you can actually wander around and buy. Now the only thing to keep in mind is it is a huge area and there is a lot of open spaces, because there's a lot of people that don't show up till the night that evening or the first thing the next morning, or throughout the day they're showing up. A lot of people are not excited about selling, so some of us are totally cool with it. Other people are not, so be careful with some of the vendors. You may annoy them. They're trying to set their RV, their tent, their whole spiel up, and you're trying to dig in their trailer, and some people are not cool with that. So definitely respect the vendor. Ask them if you can look at something, or ask them a question. It'll be really obvious if somebody's annoyed or they aren't, but that's an expert tip. If you want to come and you're really serious, come on setup day. You can find some deals. You can grab some stuff just as it comes off the truck. You're giving me competition, but I don't care. Hershey's so big, it's really just luck of the draw of what you stumble upon. All right, so expert tip number three. We always get questions about what is the best day to go to Hershey. I can only get one day off of work. What is the best day to go? Well, number one, it is nearly impossible to walk the Hershey swap meet in one day if you're actually looking at stuff and you're trying to buy things and you're taking in the beauty of Hershey, which is the people and all of the neat stuff you see. So you're gonna run into people, have conversations. If you go and you power walk the swap meet, Sure, you can do it in a day. I've had people that have proudly told me how they've walked the whole swap meet in a day and they have one taillight that they bought. If you're going and you really want to hunt and look for deals and take it all in, it takes multiple days. Really, you take almost, I would say almost a whole day per field if you're really taking your time and you're, or if you don't get around real good. But I can usually walk like all of both North and South Chocolate Field in a day, essentially. And then I walk some of the other fields, in a day. So make sure that if you're going, you pick like the first 3 days, I should say. Before or after that, it's just not as good as far as vendors not being there or vendors leaving early. Unfortunately, at Hershey, a lot of people, pretty much everybody packs up like the second to last day because the last day is usually the car show, so a lot of people participate or whatever. So Tuesday or Wednesday, now that everything's moved around, are probably the best days. Tuesday is going to be your first official day that it's open, and obviously that's probably the busiest day as far as people buzzing around trying to find stuff. Wednesday also very, very good. Thursday's going to be good, and people are going to be probably by halfway through the day starting to pack up. So that could be a time where you can maybe come around somebody you've been haggling with, come back and try and one last chance to buy something. So I would say Tuesday or Wednesday, if you're a serious buyer, those are the best days where you're going to find the best stuff. After that, things are going to either be full-blown retail or a little too expensive, or you have to really want it, or the stuff has kind of been picked clean. But there's so many vendors. I don't care if it's the last hour of Hershey on the last day. There's still deals to be found. There's so many vendors that you could still find stuff. So don't be discouraged if you can only come on like Thursday or Friday. Still definitely go. It's still going to be fun. You're going to still see some very cool stuff. All right, number 4 is check the corners of the swap meet. Familiarize yourself with the swap meet. Get a map, or if you have the time, just wander. Go as far as it will take you, because the Hershey swap meet is vast. There are pockets and corners and little spaces of vendors that, unfortunately for them, may be a little hard to find if you are not really hunting every single swap meet space. And there's some areas that you can actually wander and you'll find a little pocket of spaces that, there's 50 vendors that you never even really knew or saw that they were there. So the corners of the swap meet at Hershey are kind of where you will find that. So like the green field, if you go all the way back, caddy corner to the Giants Stadium, they're back in there. There is a little parking lot all the way in the back that's basically kind of at the end of the car corral. There's a little pocket of vendors in there, and I found some really great stuff in there. There's probably, I don't know, 20 to 50 vendors in that area, and that is a little corner. You got to kind of walk back, and you'll kind of, seems like you're ending at the swap meet and you keep going. It's way back there. Same goes with, I believe it's Red Field on the other side. There are, I may have it mixed up. I don't know. I'm not looking at my map now, but I think it's Red Field. All the way on the other side, back behind the old stadium, they've kind of gotten rid of some of that. They did some renovation, but there used to be all the racers and stuff. The race car guys were back in there, and there was some neat stuff. And then even back behind that, there was a parking lot that had a bunch of people that were set up with Model T stuff and whatnot. But some of those people have been dispersed, but some of them have moved forward. But back in that area right behind the stadium, there's some stuff. In front of the stadium, all the way around in the far corner where you're almost getting to the Turkey Hill, there's vendors way out in there. Definitely walk all those pockets. I found some great stuff. Like the one year I found like a grill, I forget what it was. It might have been a Fiat Topolino or something grill, an original one, and it was like $50, and it was like Thursday or Friday of the swap. It was like the last day of the swap meet, Friday, and I walked up and it was like 50 or $100. Perfect grill, just sitting there, but nobody had gone all the way in that guy's corner, and it was sitting right out in front. And there it was, and I found it. So walk the corners of the swap meet. That's why it's good to spend multiple days at Hershey, because you can walk all the the more exciting areas, and then you can kind of go out into those outlying areas and find some deals and odd stuff. All right, number 5 tip is bring tools with. So if there's something that you hunt for all the time, or there's some common items that you're always kind of looking for, bring a little bag of tools or supplies along with. That could be, a bolt circle gauge for checking lug patterns, or it's the common sockets or ratchet or screwdrivers, things like that you may need. Number one, that's just because you could check items and you're way out in the middle of the swap meet and you see a transmission that you want to purchase, but the guy doesn't have the cover off the transmission. So of course, before buying it and lugging this heavy thing around the swap meet, you want to check it out. So like myself, for Ford transmissions, early Ford ones, flathead trans, I bring a little stubby ratchet with a 1/2-inch socket. I can buzz the bolts off, pull the shifter top off, spin it around, and I can check out if I have a good transmission. The other thing is, sometimes you will find people that will bring like pieces of body or carcass or parts of cars. I know in the earlier days of the swap meet, it was more of a thing. I used to hear the folklore about it, that a guy would like bring a car and like part it out at the swap meet. So if you have your own tools, you might be able to buy something, or say there's a fender at the swap meet and the guy's selling the whole fender and it's got a piece of trim you want on it. You might be able to negotiate with the vendor to buy that piece of trim, but they're sure as hell not going to take it off for you. Some of them might, but a lot of times they won't. So have your tools, be prepared, be ready to do whatever you need to do, almost like your roadside service kit for your old car. Bring that with, and you will probably have everything you need to make a purchase or take something apart to inspect it. All right, tip number 6 is go shopping regardless of the weather. So Hershey, like a lot of swap meets, are rain or shine, Hershey especially, and a lot of vendors do close up their booth, especially if you don't have a big tent and there isn't as much to see. But if you are a shopper and you've come all this way, it's once a year, and if you're like me, it is pretty much one of my favorite, if not my favorite event of the year. So I am not going to let a little bit of rain or even snow bring it down and not allow us to walk the swap meet. So shop in all sorts of weather. The good part of that, the flip side of it, is the vendors that are open, they are ready to make deals, they are ready to sell. So if you go into a booth that's obviously open in the pouring rain, there's more than likely that vendor is going to be pretty easy to deal with and is going to want to sell some items. So you might be able to haggle a little bit more. The other thing is, there's not going to be as much competition. So there's not as many guys running around shopping in the rain. So you could take your time and look at things a little more closely and still enjoy the swap meet. Just like refer back to our original video, bring clothes for every type of weather, because you may need a rain jacket so you can keep shopping. So that is definitely an important tip, is shop no matter what the weather is. All right, so tip number 7 is always ask vendors that are selling items similar to what you're looking for if they have something. It doesn't matter if you don't see it out there. It's always good to ask, because a lot of vendors like ourselves will bring a giant trailer or truck full of items, and we may only put out, let's say, 80% of the items on the tables because we don't have enough room in our space. And then, since we're there for a week, as items sell, we will start to pull some more stuff out. So there might be something that is hiding in the truck that they may not have out, and you ask them about it, and oh yeah, let me just pull that out. B, a lot of people have large collections, and what you see at the swap meet is not their only parts that they own. So if you ask them for something that you're looking for, I especially do this when I'm looking for something that is really hard to find or that I haven't been having luck finding. Every booth that I see 32 Ford parts at, I'll say, hey, do you have a 32 XYZ? And they may have it, they may not, or they may say, oh, back home I got a buddy that lives, one town over. He doesn't do Hershey, but he's got it. Let me give you his number. So I've had some great leads or found some parts that are really hard to find by just asking if somebody has it. The worst case, they're gonna say, nah, sorry, I don't have it. And you just go on your way. Or best case, they might have it in the trailer, or say, oh, my buddy 3 spaces down has it, and it'll just, they'll point you right in the direction that you need to go for the stuff. So ask around for sure. All right, so number 8 is there's strength in numbers. Use the buddy system. So in today's day and age, it is ridiculously easy with cell phones now that you can use what I would call the buddy system. So pretty much you let all of your really good friends know those parts that you were really hunting for. If there's something unusual, rare, hard to find, or just something that maybe you're a cheapskate and you want a good deal on stuff, there's parts that you're looking for that are on your wish list for Hershey. I kind of let Some of my friends know if they don't already know. We usually let each other know some stuff we're looking for. And when we split up and we're walking to swap meet, if I see parts for speed equipment for a Y block. My buddy Jason is always looking for Y block stuff. And like last year, I texted him some Zoomy headers that were out of space. I had zero interest in them, but I knew he might like them. Sent him a photo of the headers, the cost, and then I sent him the space number. And you send him all that information, and then he buzzed across the swap meet, picked up those headers, and he was really happy. So try and use the buddy system. It's all about helping your friends out. So if you know there's something they're looking for, give them a call, send them a text message. It's never been easier than it was to do that. I know back in the old days, I hear a lot of stories about guys that would walk around with like long distance walkie-talkies and stuff like that to communicate with each other. But now with the cell phone, take a picture of the space number, blah, 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 text it to the next person, and if you don't want to carry it for them, they can just zoom over and grab the part, or you can give them a deposit, whatever. So use a buddy system. That way you can help find some of those key items that your friend might need, or they may help you out. All right, so number 9. This is kind of a sales tactic, I guess you could say at Hershey, more so than a buying tactic. But if you're going to the swap meet and maybe you weren't able to go, but you have some stuff at home or a car at home you're trying to get rid of, or maybe you're a vendor and you're just walking to swap meet and you have a couple, hard to sell things or things you're trying to get rid of, ask vendors if they're interested in something you may have. So sometimes if we have something that's super rare or unusual, if I'm walking a booth and they have similar items to what I'm interested in or we're selling, I may say, hey, I got a set of skirts for an XYZ back at our booth. Any of you guys interested in them? I see you collect that type of stuff. You may find a buyer because, that's the same as somebody walking up to us and asking us if we're looking, for something and they have it at their booth. I always appreciate that. I bought a lot of parts that way where a guy that had a space, a few rows over and I hadn't gotten his space yet. He said, hey, I got an intake, or last year it was a guy walked to the end of our row and said, I got a flathead engine that I haven't been able to get rid of all week. I just want to go on I'll sell it to you super cheap if you take it this week. So he walked in. I didn't even see it underneath of his booth. I had walked past it 100 times all week, never saw it, and he had it kind of shoved under a table. Ended up being a 59 AB engine. So and I got it for super cheap with a bunch of parts. So I was happy. So that's a good example. Ask other vendors if they're interested in something you may have. Obviously, don't spam them like a door-to-door salesman, but if there's something you have and you see that they might be interested, it's always worth doing that. Or you can do the old school method, print out a piece of paper, make a sign, put it around your neck, and just walk around all week with a sign, and it does work, believe it or not, and somebody might buy something off you. All right, my last expert tip, and this might be a tip / word of advice or my plea. Let's keep the swap meets going. Bring parts to sell and just get involved with the swap meet. I don't care if it's your local swap meet, but specifically Hershey. All I hear from the older generation at Hershey is, oh, it's nothing like it used to be. None of the, nobody's interested in this stuff, blah, 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 blah. Well, I know a lot of younger guys in my generation, a little older, a little bit younger. There's tons of us into antique cars, old hot rods, and et cetera, and we are just as interested in those parts. But I know that there is a very small percentage of people in my age group and around there that don't take the time to go to a swap meet and set up and sell. We can't have a swap meet if we don't have vendors to set up and sell. So bring some parts out. Even if you bring us one space worth and one table worth, sell some stuff and walk around and enjoy the week. That's how I got started with all this. I wanted to, participate. It also generates some cash. So if you're looking for some stuff that you want to buy, you can bring some stuff you don't need. You could sell it throughout the week of Hershey and then go shopping. Maybe you sell all your 10 items in the first 2 days and you can pretty much close up your space and just walk away. But participating in the swap meet is very, very important. So definitely think about it. It's not as hard as you think. The AACA just requires you to get a yearly membership, which is, I forget, $75 for a yearly membership, which gets you some other stuff as well. They have a magazine and you can participate in other events. But then you can get a swap meet space and you basically can mail in a check. Once you get a space, you just mail in a check every year, renew it, and you are ready to go. But participate in the swap meet. Bring stuff out to sell. We're not going to make the swap meets any better if we don't have more people coming out to sell their rusty or not rusty old stuff. So that is my last tip for the expert tips at Hershey. Hopefully some of these were helpful or were a refresher for any of you. If you have any expert tips, drop them down below. As always, our swap meet spaces for Hershey are down below in the video as well. You can find us at C4T 25, 26, 27. We are right in Chocolate Field, and you can find us by looking at the map or just wandering around. Stop by, say hello. Thanks, guys. See you at Hershey.